Blood slowly trickles down his arms, but he stays calm. Death is near, and yet there's no fear on his face. It's like he's been expecting this, as if he's been preparing for this exact moment for years. A villa in Rome. Silence. An old man sits by the edge of a marble pool. His wife is there. His students are there. Everyone looks worried, but he's still at peace. That man is Seneca, a statesman, a philosopher, a teacher, a writer. And now, he's facing his own death. No panic, no running, no fear. Because to him, death isn't an enemy. It's just a natural part of life. He says, "I don't fear death. I fear living in vain." He didn't just get here out of nowhere. This ending, it's the result of a lifetime of inner battles. Seneca's story is a series of tests. He's tested by power, by illness, by exile, by betrayal. And each time he holds on to one thing: protecting his mind, staying in control of himself. This story isn't just about the past, because the things he went through, they still show up in your life today. Loss, fear, power struggles, conscience. The difference is, Seneca knew how to deal with them, and he can show you how too. Here's another one of his lines: "True freedom is going willingly where fate leads you." So who was Seneca? A man who advised emperors during Rome's most dangerous times, and also became one of their targets. In the middle of all that power, danger, and darkness, how did he stay so calm? How did he protect his heart? In this video, we'll explore his life together. But this isn't just a history lesson. This is also about you. From time to time, I'll turn the focus on you because there's a lot in this story that you'll see in yourself. Let me ask you this. If it were you, could you read your own death sentence calmly? Say goodbye to your loved ones. Step into a tub of warm water and close your eyes in peace? Or would you face it with anger, fear, rebellion? Would you try to escape? If you're ready, let's begin. Let's walk together through Seneca's quiet but powerful journey. Southern Spain, Cordoba, 4 BC. Rome is still mighty, Augustus is emperor, and a child is born into a wealthy family. His mother, Helvia, calm and thoughtful. His father, Seneca the Elder, a master of rhetoric, serious and disciplined. The house is full of books, arguments, and structure. But young Seneca falls ill early in life. He struggles to breathe. Spends most of his time alone in his room. That's when he first meets the fear of death. But something else is born from that fear. A desire to question, a love for silence and depth. Little by little, he turns to books. He discovers philosophy, and through it he learns the body can suffer, but the mind, if you choose, can stay free. Lonely days, nights spent struggling just to breathe. While other kids are running around, he just watches. Sometimes he leans against the window. There's life out there, but it feels far away. And when he turns back inside, he finds something else waiting. His own thoughts. At a young age, he realizes how fragile life is, and he meets a question. Why? Why am I sick? Why is this body so weak? Why is living so hard? But something strange starts to grow inside Seneca. A quiet kind of strength. He doesn't curse his fate. He tries to live with it. Slowly, he begins to see the truth. The body might be a weakness, but the mind can be your fortress. Sometimes his mother Helvia sits by his bed. She reads to him, not just fairy tales, but real stories. Stories where pain leads to wisdom. And in those moments, Seneca's heart opens up to philosophy. His father doesn't leave him alone either. He sits at the edge of the bed and talks to him. Not about the illness, but about life, human nature, morality, virtue. And Seneca listens, not just with his ears, but with his whole soul. As he grows, while other kids chase power, he chases meaning. He takes short walks around the house, just a few steps, and he's out of breath. But even in those tiny walks, he's observing. He's listening to his inner world. His body keeps him distant from the outside. But his mind, it can go anywhere. And it's during these early years that the first sparks of philosophy begin to light up inside him. A sick child trying to give meaning to pain. And Stoicism opens a door. No matter what happens out there, he tells himself, if there's calm inside, I'll get through it. One day, while his mother sits at his bedside, he asks her something. If I can still think like this, even in this condition, maybe it's not a weakness at all. Maybe it's a kind of strength. He's still just a child, but his questions are already deep. And those questions shape his whole life. A life full of pain, loneliness, and silence, but also full of wisdom. At a young age, Seneca arrives in Rome. He leaves behind his family, the heat of Cordoba, and the silence of his childhood. Now he's at the center of life. Rome, a school but also a battlefield. His father sends him there to become a great speaker. But Seneca wants more than just eloquence. He's searching for meaning. He wants truth. In the mornings, he studies law. In the afternoons, he listens to philosophy. He's surrounded by powerful men, but his focus is elsewhere. He turns inward, constantly asking questions about life, about fate, about himself. He meets the Epicureans, but their focus on pleasure feels incomplete. He explores the Pythagoreans, too strict, too rigid. And then he meets the Stoics, and that's where he stays, because that's where he finds what he's looking for. There he discovers this idea: you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. There will be pain. There will be loss. But the question is, what will you do? You can't change the direction of the wind, but you can choose where to set your sail. Seneca holds on to that idea always. His education ends. Seneca begins to speak, but it's not just words. He shakes people. When he stands at the podium, everyone listens. He doesn't shout, but he speaks with clarity, calm, precision. He doesn't stay quiet when he sees injustice. And that earns him both admiration and enemies. In Rome, when you stand out, only two things happen. You're either applauded or you're targeted. Seneca experiences both. Under Emperor Claudius, things get messy. The palace is full of schemes. Messalina, Claudius' wife, feels threatened by Seneca. Why? Because he speaks the truth. Eventually, the order comes: exile, location Corsica, duration unknown, far from Rome's glory, stone houses by the sea, silence, isolation, forgotten. But Seneca doesn't break. He's not just an outcast now, he's a man turning inward, and maybe that exile becomes the start of his deepest lessons. Because now, philosophy isn't just in books, it's in life itself. He says, fortune promises nothing to anyone, not to youth, not to strength, not to wealth. Everything fades, but virtue, that stays. He spends 8 years there, alone, rejected, forgotten, but he builds a fortress within. Now ask yourself, what would you do? You've worked hard, risen high, and then with a single order you're exiled. Would you be angry? Would you shut down? Or not? Would you do what Seneca did? Turn inward? That's where he starts to write. He puts his first real thoughts on paper. Philosophy isn't just something he reads anymore. It becomes something he lives, feels, applies. He says, virtue doesn't show itself when things are easy. It shows itself in hardship. And that's where life truly tests you. Those years shape him. The man Rome once rejected is about to become the man Rome will need the most. But he doesn't know that yet, because now he's being called back, this time to mentor a young boy. His name is Nero. Seneca returns to Rome. Years later, older, quieter, deeper. But this time, it's not the state that calls him back. It's the emperor's mother, Agrippina. Because now there's a new boy on the throne, a child. His name is Nero. Seneca is given a task to guide this boy, to teach him, shape him, turn him into a leader. Seneca accepts, because the future of Rome now rests in a child's hands. And he wants to help shape that future. He once said, "Speaking the truth takes courage." But helping someone grow into that truth, that takes patience. He teaches Nero philosophy. He tries to teach him patience, calm, justice. He reminds him to control his mind, resist his anger, and use power wisely. To the Stoics, the real battle isn't in the world outside, it's inside. Seneca tries to pass this on, but maybe what he's really saying is, don't let power rule you, rule yourself. He says, a man should learn to govern not others but himself. True virtue is not in ruling others but in walking away even when you could rule. At first things go well. Nero is young. Seneca is patient. A bond begins to form. But over time, power starts to change Nero. The crown becomes heavy. The taste of power silences patience. Fame begins to speak louder than Seneca. And here Stoicism offers a warning. Fame grows a man from the outside, but it rots him from within. True greatness isn't in applause, it's in virtue. But Nero doesn't see that. And Seneca, he watches the unraveling in silence. The palace fills with whispers and schemes. Those around Nero start turning him against Seneca. Are you still living in his shadow? They whisper. Seneca is holding you back. Nero begins to change. Seneca sees it, but still, he stays. Still he tries, because he doesn't want to just watch a person fall. He wants to do everything he can to help. Seneca says, you don't abandon the ship in a storm. So he stays. He does what he can. But the direction is set by the wind. Eventually, even Seneca understands he's no longer talking to an emperor. He's talking to a child consumed by ambition. And that child is slowly becoming a tyrant. Seneca asks to leave. He wants to step back, to write, to think. But even that, Nero won't fully allow. Still, Seneca doesn't give up. He picks up his pen, and he writes. For a Stoic, the pen is a weapon, but not one that wounds, one that heals. When Seneca can no longer speak, he writes, because the mind is still free. And in those years, he writes the words we still read today. Letters to friends, pages from his soul. Philosophy not from books, but from life itself. He writes, fortune crushes the weak, but the strong look back at it and smile. This isn't false comfort, it's real training. When pain hits, panic is easy, but philosophy teaches you, this too shall pass, and even when it doesn't, you can pass through it. For Seneca, only one path remains. He turns inward. He speaks less. He shows himself less, but he knows more. One of the most powerful men in Rome now pulls back into his shell. But this shell, it's not escape. It's protection. It's purification. Because a true Stoic doesn't run away. He steps back. He doesn't surrender. He chooses surrender. That's not weakness. It's how you live without losing yourself. By now, Nero is completely out of control. He kills his own mother, exiles his wife, destroys his rivals. Seneca says nothing, but inside he's screaming, because everything he knows, everything he sees is pointing to one thing. The end is near. The year is 65 AD. Power still sits in Nero's hands. But that power, it's no longer just a throne. It's paranoia, it's fear, it's loneliness. And one day, a message reaches Seneca. The emperor no longer wants him alive. No reason, no explanation, just a decision. Just fear. Now stop and think. Someone you've given your life to, someone you've spent years guiding, wakes up one morning and decides you shouldn't exist anymore. What would you do? Most people would get angry, they'd run, they'd fight, but Seneca, he stays calm. He says, "We must go willingly where fate leads us." The soldier delivering the message watches his face. He looks for fear. He expects panic, but he finds nothing. Because Seneca has been ready for this moment for years. To him, this isn't an end. It's a passage. He returns home. His wife is by his side. His students gather around him. There is fear in every face. But Seneca speaks with peace. He says, "It's not death that frightens me, it's living without meaning." Because for a Stoic, what matters isn't how long you live, and it's how you live. His wife says she wants to die with him, she wants to say goodbye together. But Seneca holds her arm and stops her. He wants her to live. He says, "I will teach by dying. You will teach by surviving." He walks to the bath, sits by the marble tub, rolls up his sleeves and opens his veins. The blood flows slowly, but he doesn't move. He just breathes and keeps speaking. He says, "When death comes, don't run. But don't fight it either. Face it, greet it." Death comes slowly. His body weakens, but his mind stands tall. This isn't just philosophy anymore. It's a posture, a message, an example. He turns to his students, chooses his words carefully, and speaks one last time. "I lived according to virtue. Now I die according to it. No screaming, no begging, no blame, no anger, no rebellion, no regret, only acceptance, only readiness, only peace." He once said, "When fortune knocks you down, don't stay down with it. Stand up and walk on." His students hear that in their minds, and as Seneca draws his final breath, his eyes are not closed, they're open. Because the way he looked at life is the same way he looks at death, open, honest, brave. Now I turn to you. Could you face your own death with such calm? If one morning you found out it was the end, could you look at a friend, a partner, a child and say, "I'm ready"? Maybe not yet, but Seneca's life shows it is possible. Because through it all, he held on to one thing, his mind, his choices, his inner strength. He always said, if a person learns to keep their inner world calm no matter what happens outside, that's true freedom. A whole life, exile, betrayal, triumph, and finally a quiet farewell. But that farewell still speaks. Even after 2,000 years, it makes us pause and ask, are you the philosopher of your own life? Or are you just being pulled along by events? Because if one day life gets hard, if loss, fear, or storms surround you, remember Seneca and ask yourself, what would a Stoic do now?